Hollywood just imploded in real time when Brad Pitt, stone-faced, alone, and hauling a titanium briefcase that looked like it belonged beside nuclear launch codes, materialized on the sun-bleached steps of Manhattan's federal courthouse. Only moments earlier, entertainment sites were recycling bland rumors about his next art house passion project. 30 seconds later, every social feed on Earth was hijacked by shaky live streams of Pitt, muscling through a wall of flashing strobes, brushing aside questions that ricocheted after him like bullets. No entourage, no publicist, no SWAT-grade security, just him, a charcoal trench coat, and that ominous case chained to his wrist. Whispers spread faster than a billion-dollar blockbuster leak. Insiders insisted the case held proof so radioactive it could vaporize Shawn Diddy Combs' musical empire and answer the chilling question haunting Hollywood. Where is Leonardo DiCaprio? Bystanders swear Pitt paused at the metal detectors, stared down a marshal who asked to run the box through X-ray, and murmured, "This is evidence. You'll want open court for the first look." 9 words that detonated across the internet. By the time he disappeared behind cedar courtroom doors, TikTok conspiracy threads were mapping Diddy's alleged underground vaults, while paparazzi helicopters thumped overhead like vultures scenting a corpse. What nobody outside that marble corridor yet knew, the contents of Pitt's suitcase would rewrite 3 decades of whispered rumours, silence Diddy's glossy bravado, and decide whether Leo's next on-screen appearance will be a rescue interview or a memorial montage. The clock for truth had started ticking, and the industry's golden facade was already cracking. Inside courtroom 14B, the oxygen seemed to thicken as though the very air had overheard a secret too heavy to circulate. Reporters elbowed for vantage points, jurors clutched armrests, and Shawn Diddy Combs, impeccably tailored in midnight blue, sat statue still, jaw clenched so hard his diamond cufflinks quivered. The judge had scarcely tapped the gavel when Pitt advanced down the aisle, each metallic clink from the chained briefcase ringing like a metronome of doom. Security officers shadowed him, but kept their distance, as if fearing the case might detonate secrets none of them were paid enough to witness. Pitt stopped at the witness stand, unshackled the briefcase with a fingerprint scan only he could provide, and placed it on the oak rail with a reverence normally reserved for holy relics. Gasps ricocheted around the gallery. Diddy's composure flickered, a micro-expression, barely a twitch, yet unmistakably panic, crossing his face before the mask resealed. The prosecutor rose, voice silk over steel, and asked the actor to state his purpose. Pitt's reply cut through the hush. "I'm here to bury a lie, find my friend, and stop a monster." Outside, crowds swelled into a roaring human tide, chanting Leo's name, while helicopter rotors drummed overhead, hunting angles through the court's skylights. Messages pinged worldwide with breathless urgency. Hollywood royalty was no longer dazzling an award stage, but dueling in a federal arena where the prize was either justice or annihilation. Every eye locked on the unopened briefcase, the room captured in that electric pause before a lightning strike, trapped between revelation and ruin. Journalists scribbled furiously, aware this was the kind of moment that reroutes careers and rewrites history, the instant when rumour collides with irrevocable fact. But to understand the gravity pressing on those walnut-panelled walls, you have to rewind 5 harrowing weeks to the night Leonardo DiCaprio simply vanished. It started as the sort of silence you dismiss, one unanswered text, then another, until a gentle unease swelled into full-blown dread for the tight inner circle that has orbited Leo since the 90s. When he missed the annual Malibu bonfire he hosts like clockwork, Brad Pitt's intuition screamed louder than any tabloid siren. Pitt checked Leo's Tribeca penthouse, untouched espresso cups, unmade bed, script pages scattered as if abandoned mid-line. Los Angeles mansion. Alarm timed off 2 days earlier, pool lights still glowing, no sign of departure. Even the secluded Provençal vineyard where Leo retreats to reset was empty except for a caretaker who swore the actor hadn't been seen in months. The LAPD opened a missing person file, but red tape tangled around every lead and detectives cryptically hinted that outside interests were hampering progress. Then, like a cursed gift, an unmarked package appeared on Pitt's Hollywood Hills doorstep. Inside, a scuffed USB drive and nothing else. The video it contained, later authenticated forensically, showed DiCaprio strapped to a steel chair in a windowless basement, blood crusting his cheek, a single bare bulb swinging overhead. A digitized voice demanded $10 million within 48 hours and a vow of silence, finishing with a threat that felt carved from ice. Contact the police and DiCaprio dies on livestream. Pitt's heart hammered, but before he could act, his phone rang. Leo himself, hoarse, whispering of a purge, and begging Brad to secure evidence hidden in his old Topanga Canyon hideout. The call cut out, the terror didn't. Hollywood's most bankable leading man was now a hostage in someone's nightmare script. Fueled by adrenaline and fear, Pitt loaded DiCaprio's mother and sister into an SUV at dawn, driving them to his Los Angeles compound and turning the property into an impromptu fortress. Private security on the perimeter, blackout drapes over every window, cell phones swapped for encrypted burners. Only after they were safe did he gun a vintage Ducati up the winding road to Topanga Canyon. Headlights slicing through coastal mist, mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Leo's old retreat, a cedar cottage buried between sycamores, sat eerily undisturbed, dust dancing in flashlight beams as Pitt pried up floorboards and ransacked closets searching for any hint. Finally, he noticed an innocuous breaker panel in the basement that didn't align with the wiring diagram Leo once drunkenly bragged about memorizing. Behind it, nestled like a spider in the wall, was a fingerprint-sealed steel box the size of a carry-on. The code, by some miracle, matched digits Leo had once jokingly recited during a poker game, the release date of Titanic, the day they met on set of a forgotten commercial, and the last four of Leo's childhood phone number. When the lid swung open, Pitt staggered backward, bile clawing his throat. Inside lay a tangle of encrypted hard drives, Polaroids curled with age, and a spiral notebook mottled with blood. One Polaroid showed Diddy standing over a glass-topped coffin, another captured a woman in chains, mascara streaked across tear-swollen cheeks. Sealed evidence bags bore FBI labels dated years earlier, a hint that investigations had once begun, then mysteriously vanished. Realizing the magnitude, Pitt photographed every item, duplicated digital files onto a separate SSD, locked the originals back inside the box, and drove straight toward downtown Los Angeles dawn traffic, the weight of history vibrating beneath his leather jacket. Back in the courthouse, the first file projected onto the 15-foot screen plunged the room into pin-drop silence, a 12-minute audio recording Leo captured in 2020 inside Diddy's secluded Cayman Islands villa. The playback began with the rustle of linen drapes, footsteps on marble, then Diddy's unmistakable baritone discussing a purge with three men whose voices matched a telecom magnate, a sitting US senator, and a cartel financier. Diddy spelled it out, chillingly methodical. If anyone talks, they disappear. I've already handled the pilot and the choreographer. The actor is next. Spectators recognized the veiled reference to a beloved star who died in a suspicious plane crash 2 years prior. Midway through the recording, papers shuffle. Diddy reads a list of 12 names headed by Leonardo DiCaprio and, shockingly, Brad Pitt himself. You could feel collective pulses spike as Pitt, on the witness stand, locked eyes with Diddy, whose nostrils flared before he dropped his gaze. The audio climaxed with a toast of clinking glasses and a command: "Make Hollywood bleed if that's what keeps the empire alive." As the final word echoed, the prosecutor overlaid surveillance stills Leo had embedded. Diddy, at a mahogany table, index finger dragging across the hit list, smile shark-wide. Expert witnesses later confirmed the file's metadata, matching it to the villa's security system. The defense's murmured objections died under the weight of cryptographic hashes. Jurors sat frozen, knuckles white, some swallowing hard, haunted by how calmly power could plan carnage. Outside, Kwong's purge tapes trended past 1 million tweets per minute, fans recoiling while insiders whispered that this single clip might finally crack Hollywood's omertà. Even cynical courtroom veterans admitted later they had never felt a chill so total, so primordial inside those walls. Before the audience could exhale, File 2 detonated on screen. Leo's 8-minute phone video from a vaulted Paris wine cellar during a 2021 after-hours soiree, so exclusive guests surrendered phones at the door, except Leo's hidden backup. Footage opens with Diddy cloaked in black velvet, addressing a masked crowd of CEOs, royals, and Oscar winners flanked by iron candelabras. A young woman lies bound to a marble slab, wrists bruised, eyes glassy from whatever cocktail had been forced down her throat. Diddy recites a self-penned scripture praising sacrifice to sustain eternal influence. Each stanza ends with partygoers chanting an eerie refrain, their champagne flutes raised like ritual chalices. At the 4-minute mark, he produces a gleaming dagger, slices his palm, and smears blood across the girl's forehead, proclaiming her gift and warning. She sobs, the room applauds. The video shakes as Leo's breath hitches, his whispered "Jesus Christ" audible over the bass lines leaking from an adjoining chamber. Overlaid next to the footage, pages from Leo's leather-bound journal tremble under the document cam. In looping cursive, he confesses guilt for attending previous ceremonies, fears blackmail footage exists, and resolves to collect proof to atone. One entry reads, "If I die, find Brad. The truth lives in the steel box." The defense leapt to object, sensationalism. But the judge, voice brittle with disgust, overruled. Cameras weren't allowed in court, but sketch artists captured jurors blinking back tears, and a stenographer's transcript would later note audible gasps. Outside the courthouse, protesters hoisted candles, turning Chamber Street into a sea of flickering vigil lights, while entertainment reporters updated push notifications in near-religious silence. Veteran crime correspondents, hardened by years of cartel trials, admitted this scene blurred the boundary between decadence and pure ritualistic evil. The third dump, File 3, buried any lingering doubts beneath a mountain of hard data. Leo's 200-page encrypted dossier titled Project Babylon. Technicians spent nights breaking its AES-256 vault only to discover Diddy had engineered a worldwide trafficking lattice as precisely planned as a Fortune 500 expansion. Charts mapped private jet tail numbers funneling recruits from Eastern Europe, West Africa, and the favelas of Rio to 12 playgrounds on 6 continents. Victims signed counterfeit modelling contracts. Their passports vanished on landing. The lucky escaped with shattered careers, the unlucky with unmarked graves. One spreadsheet logged payouts, beachfront condos to a streaming platform CEO, oil futures to a senator's PAC, 3 bitcoins per victim to a Sicilian broker handling after-use disposal. Satellite photos showed Diddy's Caribbean Isle, a glittering resort on top, a concrete maze dubbed the glass cage beneath, blueprints labelled rooms break, silence and furnace. Annotated memos in Diddy's handwriting instructed staff to erase DNA trace within 48 hours. Another folder tagged Compromised VIPs contained hidden camera stills of politicians and A-listers in compromising acts, ensuring nobody would testify. For the jury, the dossier turned the sensational into the systematic, revealing an economy of abuse propped up by boardroom polish and red carpet glamour. The prosecutor concluded the presentation with a single slide, a minimalist graphic showing 2 numbers, 108 confirmed victims, 236 missing. A journalist in the gallery whispered, "That's a missing person every other month for 20 years, and somebody else retched into a trash can." Hashtags multiplied. Project Babylon, Glass Cage, and finally, Find Leo, uniting stan armies, human rights activists, and disillusioned fans in a single furious demand for accountability. For Hollywood's inner circle, the dossier was a grenade lobbed into every mansion on Mulholland Drive, a brutal reminder that opulent parties sometimes float atop graves. Reeling from the evidentiary barrage, Diddy's counsel launched a counter-offensive worthy of a prestige legal drama. Lead attorney Mark Agnafalo adjusted his Italian suit, addressed the jury in honey-edged tones, and framed Pitt as a master illusionist staging the greatest performance of his career. He suggested deepfake technology could mimic voices, AI could forge satellite images, and Pitt's real motive was jealousy over Diddy's business empire. Agnafilo even hinted that DiCaprio's disappearance might be a publicity hoax. Has anyone verified he wants to be found? Drawing murmurs of outrage. Yet the gambit wobbled when the prosecution called a trio of independent experts, a cryptographer, a forensic video analyst, and an aerospace engineer who testified the Cayman Villa recording contained vibrational signatures unique to that specific room, captured by Leo's directional mic. Metadata matched down to temperature fluctuations in security logs, obliterating the deepfake theory. Next came a digital chain of custody audit showing Leo had duplicated the files a full month before he vanished, time-stamped and notarized via blockchain. On cross-examination, Agnafilo's voice rose, cracks spiderwebbing beneath his smooth veneer. Jurors noted the contrast with Pitt's steady calm. Then the prosecution unveiled one final trump, a voicemail from Diddy to a fixer, recorded by the NSA under a FISA warrant, referencing the Topanga stash 96 hours after Pitt discovered the steel box, a slip of timing impossible if Pitt fabricated his story. Agnafilo's attempt to object collapsed under the judge's glare, and Diddy's previously glacial demeanour thawed into open panic. Jaw working, foot tapping, whispers hissed to aides. Reporters tweeted every tremor, viewers at home sensing the tide turning like blood in water. Even veteran court sketch artists later admitted their charcoal strokes couldn't fully capture the precise instant Diddy seemed to realise the narrative was slipping beyond his control forever. Amid the legal theatrics, a quieter transformation unfolded in the public psyche, catalysed by Pitt's unvarnished humanity. During a recess, he approached the gallery rail where Leo's mother sat, her hands trembling. Pitt squeezed them and whispered something that drew a faint, fragile smile. That image, captured through frosted glass by a long-lens photographer, became the day's most shared photo, a silent rebuttal to the defence's claims of showmanship. Back on the stand, Pitt spoke not of blockbuster openings or gala premieres, but of childhood sleepovers at Leo's first apartment, of shared ribs at a Memphis dive during Django's shoot, of private vows they'd made to protect one another when the studios no longer could. His voice cracked, recalling the call where Leo warned of a coming purge and begged him to shield his family. He admitted mistakes, trusting a bogus police contact, underestimating Diddy's reach, and asked the court's forgiveness for any delay that might have cost Leo precious days. Jurors listened, eyes glassy, to a superstar stripping autonomy from fame and recasting himself as penitent brother. Meanwhile, Diddy clenched and unclenched his fists, sweat beading his brow. At one point he grabbed his own lawyer's sleeve so hard the fabric stretched. Observers read the gesture as fear, the first visible crack in the mogul's diamond armour. Outside, industry players scrambled to purge Diddy's name from playlists and brand partnerships. Nightclub owners postponed his events. Fashion houses yanked sponsorships, and a major streaming service quietly delisted his documentary, invoking ethical review. The dominoes falling signalled something rare. In the face of overwhelming receipts, Hollywood's reflex to circle wagons was giving way to collective conscience, or at least to frantic self-preservation. Yet the gavel hasn't dropped, and the most urgent question hangs unresolved. Where is Leonardo DiCaprio right now? Federal marshals, armed with Pitt's coordinates, have raided 3 Caribbean compounds and 2 Nevada warehouses linked to Diddy, liberating 17 women but finding no trace of the Oscar winner. Interpol red notices now trail a half-dozen shell companies whose flight manifests echo the jet IDs in Project Babylon. While online sleuths geolocate every leaked frame for clues, Pitt, under protective detail, released a statement urging calm but doubling the reward for information, pledging personal funds and vowing no rap party until Leo walks free. Inside the courtroom, the judge scheduled a continuation, citing volume of evidence unprecedented in celebrity jurisprudence, effectively tethering Diddy to New York under a no-flight order. As spectators filed out, one juror mouthed to a reporter, "I can't unsee those videos," foreshadowing a verdict that may already be written in their haunted expressions. Meanwhile, whispers circulate that a 4th file exists, labelled failsafe, set to auto-release online if Leo's biometric watch flatlines. Rumour or not, it's a ticking cyber time bomb hanging over everyone involved. So this is the crossroads, truth versus money, human life versus brand equity. In the next hearing, we'll learn whether legal machinery can outrun entrenched power and whether Pitt's gamble was enough to pull a friend from the abyss. For viewers everywhere, the choice is stark. Stay passive or amplify the search. If you refuse silence, share this story, tag number Find Leo, and keep your alerts on, because in Hollywood's darkest saga, the final scene hasn't been written, and your engagement may be the line that flips the script from tragedy to triumph.